Right now, the baking soda sitting in your kitchen cupboard has a secret. Not a small one. Roughly half the brands in the Australian baking soda aisle have zero independent verification of what is actually inside the box. Some of the cheapest options might not even be food grade, and those premium brands charging 5, 10, 15 times more, promising a cleaner, purer, safer product. Most of them built that story in a slick marketing meeting, not a laboratory. Today, we are tearing apart the massive deception behind a staple you use every single day. By the time we finish, you will find out exactly which household names are feeding you clever branding instead of clean chemistry. We will crack open the legal loopholes allowing unverified boxes onto local supermarket shelves, and I will show you how to spot the ultimate supermarket rip-offs by reading the tiny print they hope you ignore. Stick around, because the most shocking, deeply trusted brand on this list is saved for the absolute end of our breakdown, and the single best option that passed every strict pharmaceutical standard costs about $1.50 at your local shops. Let us get into it. Before we name a single brand, we need to understand what this white powder actually is, because the food industry relies on your complete lack of chemistry knowledge to empty your wallet. Baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. That is it. It is a single, specific mineral compound. In a sane world, every box would be identical, but the market has split this humble powder into completely different tiers based on how it is processed and tested. The highest standard is pharmaceutical grade, often referred to by independent labs as USP standard. This means an independent third-party laboratory has verified the batch contains at least 99% pure sodium bicarbonate, and crucially, heavy metals like lead, arsenic, and cadmium are held to strictly documented microscopic limits. Below that sits standard food grade, which has looser regulatory requirements, and at the bottom is technical or industrial grade, manufactured for swimming pools, livestock feed, and heavy cleaning, operating under virtually no chemical purity controls for human consumption. We do not have massive synthetic processing plants producing this stuff locally in Australia. Instead, major corporations rely on two methods. They either import natural trona ore, which is mined from ancient geological deposits and refined, or they chemically manufacture it synthetically using the Solvay process, which combines salt brine, limestone, and ammonia. The synthetic method can introduce varying trace chemical impurities if the refining stages are rushed to cut corporate costs. When a brand buys this raw commodity in bulk from overseas chemical suppliers, they pack it into pretty boxes and make a choice. They can either pay for independent batch testing to ensure it meets pharmaceutical safety standards, or they can simply slap a generic food-grade label on it and rely on a loophole. In Australia, food safety regulations are baseline. Regulators do not routinely test every single batch of baking soda on the shelf for heavy metal variations unless a major contamination crisis occurs. The responsibility falls entirely on the brand, and when profit margins are tight, transparency is the very first thing to go out the window. This is not just about making your cakes rise either. Millions of Australians use baking soda as a daily wellness hack. They dissolve it in warm water to treat acid reflux, they brush their teeth with it to scrub away stains, and they rub it into their skin as a natural deodorant. When you are putting a substance directly into your body or onto your skin every morning, the difference between a verified pharmaceutical-grade compound and a completely unverified anonymous bulk import isn't a technicality. It is a fundamental health blind spot. The corporations know you assume everything in the baking aisle is perfectly safe, and they use that trust to hide a complete lack of evidence. Every paragraph of data we uncovered shows that the prettiest packaging frequently hides the absolute least amount of verified testing. Let us start looking at the specific boxes currently sitting on Australian shelves that demand immediate reconsideration. Let us kick off with the local brands you pass on the bottom shelves every single week. First up, number 10, Woolworths Essentials Baking Soda. Woolworths did not build its budget house brand on luxury, they built it on raw price utility. At roughly $1.20 for a standard 500-gram box, it is the ultimate budget anchor in the home baking section. But if you turn that plain white box around and start looking for basic trace chemical data, the wall of silence hits you instantly. There is absolutely no manufacturing origin specified. The label states it is packed in Australia from imported ingredients, which is corporate code for "we bought a giant shipping container of bulk industrial or generic powder from the lowest overseas bidder, mixed it into boxes locally, and chose not to verify the individual batch parameters." There is zero mention of USP pharmaceutical-grade testing or independent chemical validation. This lack of transparency means no external lab is guaranteeing that heavy metal metrics like lead or cadmium are held below strict pharmaceutical limits. For standard baking, a box of essentials is probably fine. But if you are one of the thousands of Australians dissolving a spoonful of this exact house brand in water every morning to cure a burning throat, you are putting a completely unverified chemical directly into your system. You are gambling on a supply chain that values the lowest possible overhead above independent scientific verification. Moving right along to number 9, Coles Smart Buy Bi-Carb Soda. This is the direct price rival to Woolies, sitting right beside it on the shelf at an almost identical sub-dollar baseline per box. Same basic compound, same minimalist paperboard packaging. What Coles does not highlight on that generic package is that their house brand line relies entirely on third-party contract manufacturing. This means Coles sets a procurement budget, puts out a tender, and a massive commercial chemical packing operation fulfills the order under the strict condition that it stays cheap. The actual baseline purity standards that Coles forces its contracted chemical suppliers to meet are completely hidden behind internal corporate documentation. No independent analysis is disclosed on the box. Choice Consumer Watchdog Group has pointed out for years that generic house brands across Australian supermarkets routinely mask their primary mineral sources to prevent supply chain disruption. If independent testing is omitted at the retail point of sale, there is no guarantee that heavy metal remnants are held beneath 5 parts per million. For making a basic cake mix rise, it works perfectly, but using it as a daily biological therapy with zero external validation turns a simple kitchen item into an unverified pharmaceutical wildcard. Next up, number 8, Macro Whole Foods Market Bi-Carb. This is the premium play found within the specialized health food sections of modern supermarkets, and it uses a clever architectural trick to separate you from your cash. The box is styled with earthy, natural tones, positioned as a much cleaner, superior alternative to the basic supermarket options on the lower rows. Macro lists a single ingredient, sodium bicarbonate. Yet despite the elevated price tag that pushes the item up to 5 times the cost of a standard box, it features no independent laboratory purity grade whatsoever. Like the budget lines, it is an imported mineral compound packed locally. By leaning into the healthy, clean living image of the broader Macro line, the brand leads consumers to assume it has undergone premium purification protocols. In reality, you are paying a hefty premium for structural marketing. The chemical compound inside is entirely identical to the cheap generic options, with no published heavy metals analysis to justify the health food tax. If this investigation is changing how you view your weekly grocery bill, tap that subscribe button right now. It only gets more intense from here. Let us hit number 7, McKenzie's Bi-Carb Soda. This is the unchallenged titan of the Australian baking aisle, an iconic brand that has occupied our pantries for generations. McKenzie's has built an almost unbreakable level of generational consumer trust. Your parents bought it, your grandparents bought it, and it feels as stable as a local utility. But let us look at the hard data. McKenzie sources its raw material from massive overseas processing plants. If you search the packaging for an explicit, legally binding claim of USP pharmaceutical-grade certification, it is not there. Instead, the marketing relies on its historic reputation to pass as a premium product. Because it sits at a higher retail price per gram than the supermarket house brands, shoppers instinctively conclude they are purchasing a cleaner substance. But chemically, it is standard, unverified, imported, food-grade material. The heritage branding is doing the convincing, not independent laboratory verification. You are paying a legacy premium for a household name that keeps its batch testing metrics entirely private. Now let us look at number 6, Lotus Bi-Carb Soda. This brand is a staple of specialized health food stores, organic grocers, and high-end independent markets across Australia. Lotus markets its products to consumers who are deeply hyper-conscious about what they put into their bodies, charging up to $8 or $10 for a small container. The label frequently emphasizes terms like natural and pure, leading health-focused shoppers to believe they are getting a completely different class of chemical. But here is the stark scientific reality. Sodium bicarbonate is an inorganic salt. It does not possess an organic chemical structure, and it cannot be grown like a crop. The word natural on a container of Lotus describes a mineral extraction process that already applies to almost every commercial baking soda sold in the country. Synthetic manufacturing methods were replaced decades ago due to environmental costs. The vast majority of global sodium bicarbonate comes from natural mineral ore deposits anyway. Lotus charges a premium for a universal property that the cheapest box under the counter already possesses. Same geological origin, entirely different marketing narrative. That brings us to number 5, Ward's Baking Powder. Now this entry requires us to clear up a massive wave of consumer confusion that has been costing local shoppers thousands of dollars. People frequently mix up baking soda and baking powder on the supermarket shelf, and corporations have deliberately exploited this ignorance. Baking soda is pure sodium bicarbonate, a single compound that contains absolutely no added aluminium. It is chemically impossible for pure sodium bicarbonate to contain aluminium. The aluminium panic is a genuine issue, but it applies exclusively to baking powder, which blends baking soda with an acidifying agent like sodium aluminium sulfate. Brands like Wards produce both products, and because they feature similar vintage branding on the same shelf, health bloggers started screaming that consumers needed to buy specialized, ultra-expensive, aluminium-free baking soda. Premium brands saw this confusion and started charging $15 a kilo for pure baking soda labeled as aluminium-free. It is a brilliant marketing scam. Printing aluminium-free on a box of pure baking soda is exactly like printing cholesterol-free on a bottle of water. It is technically true, but completely deceptive because no baking soda has ever contained aluminium. Let us transition to number 4, honest-to-goodness bulk Bi-Carb. This brand has capitalized most aggressively on the health food panic we just exposed. Sold in specialty organic shops and high-end online health portals, Honest to Goodness sells its bulk baking soda with the phrase aluminium-free highlighted front and center as a primary selling point. Health-conscious Australians trying to protect their families regularly fork out massive markups for this exact product. But as we just established, every single box of baking soda on Earth is already aluminium-free by its very chemical nature. Honest to Goodness does not publish a verified certificate of analysis on their standard retail packaging, nor do they claim a third-party pharmaceutical grade. The value proposition rests entirely on a redundant label design. They are charging you a premium for an inherent property of the molecule itself. Number 3. Cheap generic boxes from discount dollar shops like the Reject Shop or Choice Discount. These stores frequently stock generic, imported brands of baking soda for as little as 50 cents a box. The price is incredibly tempting, but the sourcing transparency is non-existent. These products are often packed by minor, anonymous overseas distributors who do not follow international food safety protocols. The major risk here is that the chemical could be technical or industrial grade, which is intended for swimming pools or commercial laundry operations. Industrial-grade sodium bicarbonate operates under looser heavy metal regulations, meaning it can contain trace elements of lead, mercury, or arsenic that would fail human pharmaceutical analysis on contact. Reaching for the absolute cheapest unbranded box at a discount outlet means you are consuming a product with zero supply chain traceability. Number 2. Unverified premium brands on online marketplaces like Amazon Australia or eBay. If you search for pure baking soda online right now, you will be hit with clinical-sounding brand names promising pharmaceutical purity at premium prices. Some of these claims are bold, but there is zero regulatory enforcement at the point of digital sale. Amazon Australia does not mandate a certified laboratory analysis before a merchant lists a food product. The phrase premium pharmaceutical grade is only as reliable as the person who typed it into the listing descriptor. Independent consumer reviews on these platforms frequently note drastic variations in texture and chemical scent between batches, which is the undeniable signature of an inconsistent supply chain that jumps between cheap bulk industrial suppliers. It is incredibly easy for a rogue supplier to buy industrial-grade pool buffer in bulk, repackage it into a clean pouch with a clean font, and sell it to health-conscious buyers at 1,000% markup. Finally, number 1. Industrial pool-grade sodium bicarbonate sold as a multi-purpose cleaner in hardware stores like Bunnings. Many consumers try to save money by buying 5 or 10 kilo bags of sodium bicarbonate from the pool chemical or cleaning aisles, assuming that because the chemical name is identical, it is perfectly safe for human consumption. This assumption is the most dangerous blind spot in the entire country. Industrial-grade pool buffer is not manufactured under food safety protocols. It is processed in heavy industrial plants where cross-contamination controls are minimal. The chemical can contain concentrations of heavy metals that are perfectly fine for balancing swimming pool water, but highly toxic when ingested daily as an antacid or used to brush your teeth. The packaging frequently features vague phrases like 99% pure mineral, masking the fact that the remaining 1% could contain trace elements of lead or arsenic. It looks identical to food-grade powder, it smells identical, but consuming it fundamentally exposes your internal organs to unmonitored chemical contaminants. It is a massive hazard hidden in plain sight, and it is the absolute worst option you can put into your body. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. We have waded through an absolute ocean of manipulative corporate labeling, meaningless marketing buzzwords, and unverified bulk imports. But your kitchen cupboard does not have to remain a chemical minefield. The switch from systemic industry deception to complete clinical transparency is a massive relief, and we have tracked down 3 clear options available right here in Australia that completely back up their quality claims with rigorous, documented lab results. Best option number 3, Bob's Red Mill Pure Baking Soda. You can pick this up across Australia in specialised health food stores, high-end independent grocers, and prominent online wellness portals. Bob's Red Mill has built an absolute global benchmark for material transparency that puts conventional grocery brands to absolute shame. Their sodium bicarbonate is entirely sourced from naturally occurring mineralized deposits in the earth, extracted using a completely chemical-free water purification process that leaves no toxic synthetic chemical residues behind. But what truly sets this brand apart from every single premium competitor on the market is an incredible corporate decision they made that most food executives would consider completely insane. Years ago, Bob's Red Mill actively featured the highly profitable phrase aluminium-free front and center on their baking soda packaging. It was a massive marketing win that pulled in millions from health-conscious shoppers. Then, they voluntarily removed it. Their official documentation now openly states that all pure baking soda is inherently aluminium-free by chemical law, and they refuse to continue capitalizing on a redundant phrase that generated widespread consumer confusion. Giving up a massive financial marketing advantage simply to protect scientific truth is the ultimate proof that a company values genuine integrity over raw, predatory extraction. Texture-wise, this powder is incredibly fine, dissolving flawlessly without leaving behind any of that harsh, gritty residue or the distinct chemical bitterness common in cheap, poorly refined supermarket brands. Price-wise, it sits around $10 for a 450-gram bag, making it significantly more expensive than standard house brands. It is a steep jump, but you are paying directly for rigorous batch-level ELISA testing inside a dedicated, pristine, gluten-free environment. If you suffer from severe celiac disease, extreme gut sensitivity, or autoimmune vulnerabilities where any form of cross-contamination represents an absolute health crisis, this is a premium investment that completely justifies its price tag. Best option number 2, Blant's Natural Sodium Bicarbonate. Based right here in Sydney, Blant's is an absolute hidden gem that completely bypasses traditional retail markup models. You will not find them clogging up the brightly lit shelves of Coles or Woolworths. Instead, you source them directly from health networks, holistic suppliers, or their dedicated Australian online store. Blant's operates on a fundamentally different manufacturing philosophy by harvesting pure, natural narcolite directly from deep underground deposits. While mainstream industrial brands take heavily processed trona ore and run it through a complex multi-stage chemical conversion loop to create synthetic sodium bicarbonate, Blant's pulls an organic compound out of the earth that nature has already built in its finalized state. It undergoes zero harsh processing before arriving at your door. The sensory experience is instantly distinct. It feels soft, almost velvety between your fingertips, and carries a completely clean, neutral profile that lacks the sharp metallic edge of mass-manufactured powders. Their technical data sheets are fully open to the public, confirming strict compliance with global USP pharmaceutical standards, meaning total trace heavy metals are completely locked down below 5 parts per million. Blant's holds official validation from Australia Certified Organic, confirming its total purity for premium food production. This option is an absolute paradise for budget-conscious buyers who want pure quality at scale. You can buy a single 1 kilogram bag for around $14, or drop $40 on a massive 5 kilogram tub that drops your long-term costs down to pennies per use. It is the absolute ideal choice for families who want to safely brush their teeth, wash their fresh vegetables, or bake clean bread without funding a slick corporate advertising campaign. Best option number 1, Arm & Hammer Baking Soda. After tearing through every premium certification, every boutique health food promise, and every luxury online listing in the country, the single best product that survived the absolute highest tier of scientific laboratory analysis is the iconic orange box you have walked past 1,000 times. You can buy it at Woolworths, Coles, or your local IGA for roughly $1.50 a box. Let us look at the cold, hard data the health food industry absolutely does not want you to connect. Arm & Hammer is manufactured using natural trona ore, mined from the massive, ancient Green River geological reserves. More importantly, it holds official, legally binding USP pharmaceutical-grade certification. This is not a casual piece of marketing fluff. It is the exact same extreme purity verification required for sodium bicarbonate used in hospital intravenous solutions, clinical dialysis, and critical prescription pharmaceuticals. To maintain USP-grade status, the production line must undergo brutal independent laboratory verification, proving every single batch contains at least 99% pure sodium bicarbonate, with lead held beneath a microscopic threshold. Their production facility operates under strict pharmaceutical-grade protocols that completely dwarf standard commercial food guidelines. Now take the entire reality of the Australian baking aisle in at once. The one product featuring the absolute most rigorous, externally verified purity testing on the market costs dramatically less than every single unverified health food option we dismantled today. It costs up to 15 times less than boutique online brands, charging premium rates for an aluminium-free label that applies to every box by default. The entire marketing machine spent decades brainwashing you to believe that a higher retail price automatically equates to a cleaner, safer chemical standard. The laboratory data proves the exact opposite is true. The cheapest, most basic option widely available on the supermarket shelf is, by verified independent testing, the cleanest thing you can possibly put into your body. To make sure you never get ripped off by slick marketing again, here are 5 non-negotiable rules for buying Bi-Carb in Australia. First, completely ignore the words aluminum-free on any pure Bi-Carb packet. It is a cheap psychological scam designed to make you pay a massive premium for a universal chemical property that even a $1 house brand from Woolworths or Coles possesses by default. Second, do not fall for organic or natural labels on these boxes. Bi-Carb is an inorganic mineral salt that cannot be grown, and nearly all domestic stock comes from naturally mined geological deposits anyway. Third, always look for the explicit phrase USP standard or pharmaceutical grade on the technical label if you plan on drinking it or applying it to your skin, as this guarantees independent batch testing for toxic trace impurities. Fourth, avoid buying bulk unbranded white powders from online marketplace platforms like Amazon Australia or eBay, where regulatory oversight at the point of sale is entirely absent, and industrial pool-grade stock can easily be repackaged as premium food. Finally, never buy multi-purpose Bi-Carb bags from the cleaning or pool chemical aisles of local hardware shops like Bunnings for culinary or health use, because those industrial lines are processed under loose heavy metal restrictions. Ultimately, this whole investigation exposes a massive flaw in how we shop. Corporate marketing departments have spent years teaching us that a higher shelf price always represents a safer, cleaner, more premium product. In the baking aisle, that consumer mindset is a complete financial trap, because the corporate empires rely on our ignorance of basic chemistry to sell redundant properties at 1,000% markup. The single best way to stop being a victim of this system is to demand independent scientific verification instead of pretty packaging. Thank you so much for watching today's deep dive into the hidden chemistry of your kitchen cupboard. If this investigative breakdown completely changed how you look at the weekly grocery run, please share this video with a mate or family member who constantly waste their money on expensive health food boxes at specialized shops. They deserve to know exactly what they are funding. I want to hear from you down in the comments section right now. Which of these specific Bi-Carb brands is sitting in your pantry at home this very second? If you are eager to expose more corporate food scams, click on our next video breaking down the massive lies hidden on premium olive oil labels at your local supermarket. Stay sharp, read the microscopic print, and never pay a premium for basic chemistry. See you next time.